whether it's Hardin County, Tyler County, Jasper County, Polk County, Union County, I do think, and I do know, that I have great public service in those cities and counties. You know, the great thinkers would say that the law is supposed to be positioned to help the people do right. So here we are in this situation. As I said a month ago, I'll say it again. I do think there are some state statutes, some state rules, some state processes that's feeding this issue of escalating property appraisals. I do think that. And I said that last month. And I do think whatever system we have, we need to make sure we put our local government officials in the best position to do the best thing for the taxpayers. I said that last month. It's important for all of you in here to know this. Now, the property tax men in Texas, I mean, I did that, I mean, since what? The mid-1800s, ever since we were shipped, maybe even before that. At one time we had a state property tax. We don't have that now. I will tell you, I kind of challenge that. I think we have obviously we have a state code that makes, everybody has to follow. And we have all these different techniques. You know, you can't go more than 8% when you bring in revenue. You can't do this. You got to do flips and all of this. So I would probably go, Lydia, a little further and say, I think we do have a state property tax. I mean, we don't have 254 different tax codes, but we do have one tax code that is doing it. Except for this what we call this recapture money from school districts. It's a function of school finance from all these lawsuits that we've been involved in. Waived for the most part, and you need to know this. The property tax, as far as the values are assessed here, and we'll get into that because I do believe that, and let me tell you something, I've had some very, very strong discussions with local government officials. And it's okay for us to have policy decisions. Let me tell you someone else I've had a very strong discussion with, and that's our state comptroller, which I like immensely. And I said, I don't know what it is. I don't know if the people are coming in looking crazy. I don't know if they're coming in with shotgun. I don't know what's happening. But, you know, because he said, I'm pointing fingers at everyone. I said, no, bro. The local governing people are telling me they're pointing fingers at you. Yeah. I'm just trying to alert you. But we'll go back to my other thing. Because it's important for you to know this. For the most part, this is a tax that is obviously, and I want to separate this, you got appraised value, then you got taxes, okay? But at least the values are assessed locally with state oversight. They're collected, we're talking about the tax monies, the property tax monies, or collected locally by your local officials, and they're spent and budgeted locally. There are no property taxes at this time that come up to Texas and we dole it out. That's not happening. Some of you, I guess I was in high school running track in 1980, but there was this thing called PEVO. Consolidated these appraisal districts. I heard, you know, school districts have appraisal districts, you know, just about every tax they had. It was just crazy. You think now it's crazy. Just think about as many appraisal offices as there are taxing entities. Just think about that and negotiating that in different values. But this system we have now, generated in the late 70s and early 80s, your local taxing entities do appoint an appraisal board. One of the main functions is to hire a chief appraiser. And an appraisal board also comes up with citizens to work on the appraisal review board. I did say, yes, these appraisal review board members sitting our church pews with us, the appraisal board members, we waved at them at Walmart, we see them at Little League, they're here in your county, not in Austin, not in Dallas. Dallas has their own thing. Let me start with the microeconomics. Let me tell you what I think is going on. Okay, I do think there's these pressures from up high, not down high, up high. Okay, and the state legislature needs to deal with that. But let me just bring it before I get on to the microeconomic issue. Let me just get to the basic. What do you do if someone walks up to you and they say their appraisal increased by 9,000%? Well, first of all, you tell them, let me see the paper. You shouldn't believe that right off the bat. Okay, let me see the paper. And then you find out that it's true. And you get question after question after question. And I'm telling you, I don't know about anybody else, I can't explain that. I'm sorry, I cannot explain that. If it's big government from Austin, we need to deal with it. If it's the appraisal board, probably mismanaged, but making sure that the appraisal chief had did his or her reappraisals. How you doing, Ms. Zimmerman? Okay. Oh, I thought that was my Ms. Zimmerman from Tyler County. How you doing now? Okay. Then that needs to come out because the appraisal board is our people in the county. The appraisal board has the power to hire. They have the power to fire, which means there is some authority there to manage. James White is willing to say, I think there is big government in Austin driving values up. And all I'm asking, and I think most of them do this, is if there's an appraisal board out there and it's not doing all of what it's supposed to do statutorily, then if I'm on that appraisal board or I'm putting people on it, I need to raise my hand and say, I think we need to manage that better. Because with some chief, I want to talk to at least the one in Tyler County. And he said the reason for some of the escalating values there was because some values had not been reappraised for a number of years. And so then people ask me, well, why? And I say, go back and ask your appraisal board. That's what I said. Go back and ask them. How you doing? And then people then wanted to get into other debates about tax rates and spending. And I say, you need to have your commissioners in your counties and your local councilman and those people up here asking those questions. That's not a question for me to referee rates and revenue spending and how it's spent. This issue came to me, sir, on the values and the idea that the value should be market value. That's how this issue came to me. So I'm okay with having those discussions about unfunded mandates on counties from the state government and all this other stuff. But on the primary issue of values, technically, when we talk about market value, spending is probably a function of market value, but market value is not necessarily so. So when someone says, it's important for Republicans, and this is why I think we got the guy we got, not the one some of us probably hope we had, talking about our nominee. There's a lot of economics. Republicans, we need to catch this more. There are a lot of Republicans, a lot of citizens, and there's a lot of economic angst out there. Many people feel their wages are flat, but they see values going up, and they don't understand. And I think I do have a responsibility to try to explain it and try to do something about it. So, I know we like to sit around and chat for a while. And I just want to put that on everybody's heart and everybody's mind. The idea that government is submissive to the people. And I do believe, whether you're city councilman, special school board, they don't pay anything. Okay. State legislators, state senators. Just because it's legal doesn't necessarily mean it's right. So if we've got a problem, we need to address it. And everyone, I believe, needs to take some level of responsibility that they can handle. So, you know, you're the people and you can ask the questions you want and you can make the comments that you want. As I said last month in Jasper, we want to talk about rates. We got one great guy here, Commissioner Kirkendall, that can talk about that in Hardin County. You want to talk about revenue and spending, likewise. But when you want to talk about values, I think we can have that discussion. Yes, sir, Frank.
Who actually hires the chief appraiser in the county?
The appraisal board. The board.
The actual board?
Yes.
Who appoints the board?
That was my next question.
The local taxing entities appoint the board. You know, let me Wade, check this story out. I remember my first election cycle in 2010. I was in Austin doing one of these campaign schools, so to speak. You know, after the campaign school, you sit around, you know, you talk about the election environment. There was a particular political consultant that I had known for some time that was there. And he said, well, James, what are some issues important to your district? I said, well, I think my district is very concerned about quality education. I think they're very concerned about state-federal relationships, the Constitution. I think a couple of my counties at that time, I had only 4. I think they're very concerned about property taxes. He said, James, people in Texas aren't concerned about property taxes. And I looked at this guy, and I said, man, you've been in the game too long. You've been in the game too long. And he said something that has stayed with me for a while. He said, when you start having election turnout, Mr. Chairman, at school board elections, city elections, that are more than 5 to 10% of these bond issues, more than 2 to 3%, he said that's when the people are concerned about property taxes, because those are the people setting the rate. So, also individual will be interested in solutions, definitely interested in listening to the solutions. And you know how I am. I don't make any promises. I don't overpromise and underdeliver. So I'm not going to get up there and say we're going to overturn the property tax, go to a 12% sales tax, and we're going to do this and we're going to do that, because there's something dynamic about the Texas legislature, just like in your household. Yes, one guy doesn't get to run the whole show. We have to go up there, we have to sit down, we have to talk to people, and get to some type of common ground. So that's what I wanted to share with you. And yes, sir. State. Which type of state tax? Okay. Right. I do know The question or his comment was their discussion about abolishing the sales, I mean, the property tax and going to some other taxation. I think on our Republican ballot, we had a number of ballot propositions. That particular proposition we talked about passed overwhelmingly. I think in my district it was at the 70% level and just in every county. It's always the devil in the details. So there are a lot of proposals out there. Okay. I also think, and this may be getting a little bit too in the weeds, but our counties, our school districts, some other local entities, they have this thing called, they may have some called public debt, indebtedness. And so they have bond ratings themselves, and we must make sure that there is a tax revenue structure out there that allows them to maintain their bond levels. Talking about that, this is one concern I have to think of. Part of the financial collapse wave, I believe, involved rising asset prices in the middle of the last decade, 2008. These rising asset prices and finding out there was no value to justify the rise in asset prices. This issue of escalating values is not exclusive to our area. It's all over the state. I'm talking to representatives, I'm seeing it all over the state. So whether it's the state of Texas or any local entity, it's asset values that we're estimating. It's important that we know that they're real market value, or else the laws of economics will make it so. So the comptroller, again, I had some very harsh words. Okay, I still like it. Okay, we used to have some very harsh words. And if you are pushing values up and there's no real rationale due to wage increases or profits or whatnot, sooner or later, something's got to come back down to earth. And if it didn't work in 2008 for Goldman Sachs and Lehman Brothers and all these other entities, why would it work for the state of Texas or any other government? Because understand, when a school board goes to the bond market, one thing that the bond market looks at is evaluations. And then therefore, it's just like on the state level. When they evaluate our bond level, our bond rate, you know, they look at our revenue coming in. And they look at a whole lot of other things too, believe it or not. All right? Like, are we investing in roads? Are we making the proper expenditures in education? Because the idea, if you're borrowing for 15, 10, 20 years out, it's the idea that you can make those payments and that you have these rising incomes to do it. And we know the old adage, the more you earn, the more you learn. And if we're not making the appropriate expenditures in education, we're not making the appropriate expenditures in our infrastructure, you'll be surprised. The bond agencies look at those things too, as far as future performance. So these are things that we have to keep on our mind. I love my district. I enjoy working with all my local government officials. And again, it's okay for us to have differences in policy. We have this unique thing in Texas, or in our country, of this federated system. And it's okay sometimes for one part of the body to be a little at angst with the other part of the body. You know, sometimes you got to crack the egg. Can I get the mayor back here and come back to you? Yes, sir.
Right. Has there been any discussion about changing or modifying the makeup of the appraisal district board? Because you have essentially, they have a large part in the taxation, but there's no representation by the citizens on that board. They're appointed by the entities, school districts, counties, etc. But we have no direct impact on the makeup of that board.
Okay, I'm gonna make you a little upset. Yeah. Okay, I'm gonna make you a little upset. Revenue rates, as I said in Jasper last month, that is a discussion you need to have with your local governing entities. I know where you're going. And see, that's, I think, part of the concern when we get in this discussion, we start talking about revenue. I'm not talking about revenue. I talk about revenue as far as the state of Texas is concerned in its budget. But talk about revenue for 26 school districts, 5 county governments, about 10 or so cities. I can't talk about that at the rate and know all of that and to be able to judge all of that. Here's the point, and this is also what I said in Jasper. When are the people going to take control of their government? There are already elections, school board elections, city council elections, county elections that make those decisions. You're already electing people that make those decisions. I'm one, I know some people would disagree with me, I'm one to say, I don't think by electing the appraisal chief or electing the appraisal board members, I can't, like I said, like my consultant friend told me, we're not getting out for the elections now. We're not getting out and supporting the fiscal conservatives in these local governments now. So now we're going to extend the ballot longer. So, one question, and I've never asked the question, I'll be honest, Mr. Chairman, I've never asked, you're running for county commissioner, not against Kirk, but you're running for county commissioner?
I'm not running. No.
Okay, and I've never said, okay, thank you for running. What is your thoughts on electing people to the appraisal? I've never asked that question.
It never comes up.
It never comes up. Okay? But we elect people now to do this. Why not work with them to get the people on? Why not when the comptroller comes to Lumberton or Beaumont or Livingston, talk with him about this, okay? I know he's going to tell you. He's already told me. Yeah, like I said, I had some harsh words. He told me, well, I'm just implementing what the legislature gave me. Okay. And we'll see about giving you something else different in 2017. What's that
I kind of look at it in a more simplistic way. They're raising the property value so they can backdoor tax. That's how they do it. The higher your property is appraised, the more tax you're going to pay on that property. And so it's a backdoor way to get more revenue because if they go directly in and bring it to the voters to increase taxes, if it's over a certain percent, you have to vote on it. And so they know that will never pass. So they look for the easiest way to backdoor it.
Well,
but you have to go, you have to, when you get an appraisal that's way out of whack, you have to appeal it. You have to, and paying to run, you have to appeal it. I just recently done in Jefferson County, they ended up buying my house less than what they did last year. They tried to raise it $10,000 from last year. And I used rather run tactics with them. But,
and your name is Mr.
Bob.
Yeah, Bob.
This is Jefferson County.
Okay.
Basically what I did was, I took pictures on my appeal form. I told them I'm going to show pictures because they cherry pick. They're going to pick out 2 or 3 houses in your neighborhood that sold for the highest value, and then they cherry pick. So I told them I was going to bring pictures of houses that weren't quite so good. I said I also going to discuss the changing demographics of the neighborhood and some other stuff. 2 days later, I get a call. They valued my house $5,000 less than it was in 2015 because they didn't want to have that discussion. So I'm just saying, you have to fight.
Okay.
Where you can fight, you have to fight where you can fight. And you have to be willing to get down in the dirt and back it sometimes.
And I see my chairman over there with his hands up. But Bob, and but follow this right here. So, and I may be up here embellishing. So you're saying that the taxing entities somehow conniving to raise them just enough where not to trigger a rollback when they get more. Okay. And let me tell you this.
All you have to do is look at the figure.
Okay, but let me tell you this. Okay, and I didn't want to get into revenue. Okay, but let me put this on the table. At least in Tyler County, I don't know about Hardin County. I think I've seen it in Hardin County. I think when I've seen it, the plaque I walked out. But during this time of the year, especially going down, they have which down in the fall, they have what they call budget workshops. And sometimes when I peek in there, I'll make sure they don't see me. But I peek because I don't live in Hardin County. But even in Tyler County, because usually they'll say, come on in here. But I'll peek in there, and who do I see in there? I see the elected officials doing their work. I don't see very many citizens. And guess what? It's on video. Now, you may can say, well, if you have something at 12 o'clock, 11 o'clock today, I'll get there. That's a discussion to have with your taxing entity. So I don't know how much, and again, I'm up here because what I primarily have, I think, any oversight on is the appraised values. I walk in, I see these budget workshops, I see commissioners up there talking, maybe, some people out, like the other county officials out in the audience like this, and they're going back and forth, and sometimes having very good discussions. But I never see us, we'll get my chairman and come back to you for yes, sir.
Two things. One is the appraisal review board is one of the few places you get to go up with other taxpayers and tell them that your house is overvalued. And just serving on that board, just about every time, the taxpayer wins if he does. Most people don't go.
I think
most of the we stop it with.
I think someone told me in the whole state of Texas, maybe 1%.
That's a good or goes.
Go, yeah.
The second part of that is the biggest part of our taxes are school taxes. And like the city of Silsbee ISD has like half the school population they had 10 years ago. People aren't having kids and we're still raising the cost of our schools. That's just because we buy into that it always costs more money. Why does it always cost more money if you got fewer kids? Because we're not going to the school board meetings. We're not doing those other ones. I go to my appraisal review board because it's me personally, but we don't go to everybody else. That's where all these things affect us.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
Can you repeat the
talking
question?
about the homestead exemption. Okay, we're all for the Homestead Act. That was back in the day. But the homestead exemption, okay, I got you. And his question was, your taxes are frozen when you get that over 65, you get an over 65 exemption on your taxes. Your taxes, so whatever is your taxes, say if your taxes were $500 a year, that's frozen now. There are always exceptions. Okay. One exception is if you add a garage, okay, and then that tax freeze, they calculate that addition, that change, that substantial change in your property. So stuff like that, additions. Also, not every taxing entity is frozen. And I wrote my chief appraiser that question. I mean, a letter on this. Because what I saw happening, I was sitting in my office and my senior citizens were coming in saying my taxes are going up. And I said, well, first of all, that little statement you see here says what? Estimated taxes. So I said, don't worry about it.